So I think Legacy does a very good job interacting and demanding the attention of its audience just because it's so real, it's uncut, it's very raw, and it's just accurate and true to like real high school life and like the sports scene. Because, from the first day of conditioning to the very last day, although we were there, we never gave the girls any direction. They never really paid any mind to us because they were so focused on their mission. And I think that just worked out so beautifully. And you can see it when you watch the video, they're just living their lives and we're there. And that's one way that I think we really interact with our audience super well, because there's lots of parents, there's teachers, there's coaches that don't get to see this perspective, and we're showing them a perspective that didn't exist before. It's almost like third person, we're like a fly on the wall. So I think that's something really cool that we did, and it's a selling point, I think, honestly. And for the reasons that I listed, the documentary has been very popular with the parents and the students and the teachers and the coaches. We had a viewing party a couple months ago and they all got to see it. And it was received very well, just how we thought it would be. And so that just reinforces the fact that, this raw, unedited, uncut version of the girls' lives, their mission, the state championship, all of that, all coming together, it is what people want to see. And so we think, not because of advertising or, telling people about it, but just because the story itself is so good and the girls worked so hard and we got such a great view of it, that's why people want to see this. So as far as the viewing of this goes, we had the one initial viewing party that I had mentioned earlier. But on top of that, as far as distribution goes, we have the video on YouTube right now, and it's going to be entered into a couple different contests too for viewing there. And we chose YouTube because it's a really easy source, to share videos and view videos. Everyone has access to it for the most part. And we figured that'd be a really great way for the parents and the students and the teachers and all that to be able to view it and share it. Just because, YouTube's just like the standard these days. Legacy didn't really challenge a whole lot of conventions, if I'm honest with you. I'm not going to sit here and lie to you and say that it did. There's a couple things that were a little unconventional, at least for the BDTV, Blue Devil Television, our media source here at Winter Haven High School scene goes. And only a couple things I can think of, Coach Lawson says the word hell.
The hell you think you're going to play? You're never going to get in the game. Ever.
And that's not typical for our program. But it was called for, it was raw, it was unedited, like I said earlier, and it needed a place in our documentary. So that was one place that we challenged the conventions. In addition to that, on the very first day of conditioning, me and Logan, we walked into the facility, to meet the coaches and the players for the first day, and we realized something right away. All the girls were black. And we worried that it would shine poorly on us to just display one group of people, and not show diversity within the sport. But that's just how it is. As I said, raw and uncut, so that's how we filmed it. And I think it actually created the opposite effect. Seeing all these girls from the same background created a sense of community that I really liked. And I think it's evident when you watch the video. Me and Logan felt that perhaps the biggest convention that the girls challenged was the convention that boys are better than girls at sports, which is simply not the truth, and the team proved this through their dominance and their hard work ethic that we showed. In order to create a sense of branding for our video, me and Logan decided that the name of the video had to be one word. It had to be true to the story, and so we chose Legacy. In order to do this, we actually filmed the entire documentary over the course of these months. And then when it was done, we looked at the documentary and said, how can you define this? And we figured Legacy would be the best way to do so, because these girls are not trying to prove anything, they're not trying to prove anyone wrong. Everyone knew they're the best team. At this point, they're just proving that they're the best ever. They're just cementing their legacy. And so that's why we chose the name Legacy. Not only referring to documentary, obviously, but there's a little story to be told there. When you hear the word legacy, it kind of suggests what happens in the documentary. So we really like that. And I think it creates a great sense of branding. Although we never intended to sell any kind of merchandise or shirt or any sort of thing like that, we really think that apparel for the team, maybe a shirt that said Legacy across the front would be a great item. Because at all these games that we went to, we'd always see the parents and the fans, they'd wear shirts. For example, number 22, Taya Singleton, her family and friends would wear these Taya Slim Singleton t-shirts. And it just showed us that there's a market for these items, as long as there's going to be people that really care about the sport or care about their child. One of the biggest selling points for these pieces of apparel, meaning, the shirts, the hats, the backpacks, was LBD, which stands for Lady Blue Devils. And it's almost a sort of like war chant for this team. It really gets them hyped and fired up, and the fans like it too. It's no coincidence that LBD made its way onto our promotional poster and our website. So in order to make this video, Logan and I, we used my personal Nikon D5300 that I bought back this last summer, and a couple different lenses on that. We got an 18 to 55 millimeter for lots of the really close-up shots or interviews, or at the very end of the documentary when we're running into the crowd and, the girls had just won the state. And we had a bigger lens, the 55 to 200, and that's what we used to actually film the sports, the highlights, things like that. On top of that, we used our class's Sony video camera. It shot 1080/60, and we did this on purpose so we could switch, interchangeably between the Nikon and the Sony footage without there being a noticeable difference. So on top of the camera equipment, we had to have some really good editing software, and so we used Final Cut Pro. It's what I was trained on, it's what Logan was using before this documentary. And we really like it because it's easy to change the coloring. You can lay clips over each other, things render very quickly, and we're just very familiar with it. So Final Cut Pro 10, that's what we used. There's lots of copyright-free content that we use, from music to videos, from story blocks and audio blocks. So we're very thankful for our subscription there. It made things so easy.